Miss Scott, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Incredible. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm just seeing how high this screen is. I think that'll work.
Are you on vacation? Coming back from vacation?
We're back from vacation, hopping off of work calls and getting into the groove again.
Catching back up. I love that.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh, where were you and what'd you do?
So we were in Rehoboth and we spent some time with family that was there, my sister-in-law and three nieces and nephews, so my kids could have kids to hang out with, and it was awesome. When you're on vacation with kids, it's a little bit like a trip and a little less like a vacation, but it worked out because everybody had what they needed.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Have you gotten away at all, or have you been in this same spot since I last talked to you in that spot?
And that is a great question. Um, I've spent way too much time here. I
Yeah.
would say maybe like 6 weeks ago, it was like the whole train just landed in my living room and I was just like emotionally collapsing.
Wow.
And dealt with that. I've battled with depression, so like I
Yeah.
kind of know the signs. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just bounced out. I went to DC and like got a hotel room, and then since then, have really just established like I will not work from home more than 3 days in a row.
Mm.
So I work for a couple of days here, and then I'll bounce. And
Yeah. Good.
even in a day, like I run early in the morning and I lift, and I have a healthy balance in that sense. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of the word balance, but I still know that being at the same place all the time can just be it can just be a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel good about it.
Yeah.
I needed to really step in and just crank out and just be focused and disciplined for the first 5 months. And now
Yeah.
we got to a good place and we can kind of
Yeah.
have a different operating system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Good. I love that you've created that.
It's I'm sure it's something that you're very familiar with as well.
Yeah, operating systems are huge. For sure. I think I definitely am I've evaluated this summer and maybe for the fall too, because my kids will still be at home,
Yeah.
what's baseline, what has to get done, what's next level, what's fun to get done, all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
But I have definitely it's taken a toll on my mental health as well, and had to step back and be like, what have I not been doing that I know I need to be doing?
I hear
So, yeah.
Definitely do. Well, I'm excited to catch up and hopefully
Yeah.
we can add to what you're doing. Uh,
Awesome.
what today's kind of like a casual conversation. We put this internal inside of Money Club so that
Yeah.
users can learn and engage with people we think have great messages that resonate.
Okay.
Um, and the objective is just to give them wisdoms and insights beyond us. And I'm positive that there's going to be a lot of gems that you can drop along the way, and I'll kind of like steer and
Yeah.
guide,
Okay.
and the rest is like you go where you want to go, and take things as you will, and I'll try to like ask questions and facilitate in a way that lets you just kind of explore
Okay.
and share. Um, the We can either chat before or after about sort of what's happened in our world,
Yeah.
because I think that we're finally triangulating to a point. I've really tried to wrap my head around um, like where can we get you engaged, and
Mm.
we didn't. I had it in my head, but I think my whole team would say this, like in my own little bubble world, things happen like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can talk about that as well,
Okay.
uh, before or after, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
I'm fine either way, Aaron. I did look through, I would not say I was super excited to look through what you have put together and, feel like the presentation of it, I'm a company saying, yes, sign me up. Absolutely. So I'm stoked to talk about that. I'm curious because I saw a lot of companies listed that you've worked with. So I'm kind of curious how that's looked for you, but you're the podcast host, so you tell me what makes it most sense to you to talk through that before or after. And I've certainly done a bunch of these for people, and they kind of splice it however they want to splice it on their pages or groups or podcasts or whatever. So I try to be as articulate as possible.
Cool.
Fingers crossed.
Well, let's talk about where we are and what we're doing, and then that may inform kind of as we talk.
Sure.
We want the podcast to be as authentic and real. So we typically don't cut very much. We might cut like an ad or like a clip to share, but for the most part, we just want it to be two people talking.
Yeah, cool.
So I sent over the employee wellness doc, and that is really a representation of our newest and like most COVID thing. And what we're noticing is that, you know, we can target production, retention, we can target stress and health, we can target money, we can target culture, we can target engagement. That's really like broad, but interestingly enough, the ability or the attractiveness of that is like hyper niche. Like someone that cares about any of those things probably cares about all of those things, and that's few and far between, sadly enough. But I think the other piece of this that we're learning is, you know, how can we take our workshop and combine that with something online? And when someone has a deeper need, knowing that we don't have the capacity to like do a lot of one-on-one stuff, how can we help? There's a guy in our community that came in kind of online, so he didn't get a workshop experience, but was like, the question he asked was about like retirement and getting there. And we were like, we're building courses to help that. But this might be a great example of where we can say, oh, hey, like we know exactly where to help you and direct you. So I think that's sort of the objective right now. And as we kind of learn and discover, as more people come into the fold of our influence, I'm sure there are going to be people like, hey, will someone help me write a plan? And we'd love to have someone to be like, yes. Talk to you. That could mean, you know, you're active in the community and you can share ideas and posts and just kind of be that. It could be, you know, a variety of things in that way. So we can figure that out as we go. That's kind of where things have gone. And where the alignment seems to be.
Okay. Do you have any companies yet that have been like, yes, this is something we want to provide for our employees, like as far as employee financial wellness?
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, probably 3 already.
Okay, great.
And what we're essentially doing is booking them for a full year.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
So we can definitely sort of engage you in that process as we navigate what that looks like and how we launch them. And, you know, based on that, we can determine, you know, is it something we say, hey, look, we do this. If you want extra help, here you can go to Amy and here's what that costs.
Right.
So we can navigate that together. But ultimately the goal would be, you know, if we're able to provide value in a workshop sense, group setting, and then online, you get to fill the need of individuals, and then facilitates people to you, and it helps us because we don't have to isolate the staffing and, you know, bring somebody on all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. What I've seen works best for folks doing this is when they have those workshops, they sell that to the company. Okay, we're going to give this financial education. And then essentially the idea being like an add-on, like if you want to have this as an add-on, for example, for your employees, 10 hours a month of one-on-one financial coaching that, you know, here's a landing page for them to go to. This is what I've been proposing to employers, like that I would do these overall workshops and then give them a discounted rate. So it's not, oh, hey, go over here and sign up. But as issues arise for them, that they really need some more hand holding around, or they don't feel comfortable talking about in a group setting, that, okay, here's the landing page you can go to and schedule a 1 hour one-on-one with a financial coach.
Right.
But I'm finding that employers, they like that idea, and there's, some resistance to that as well, because they just want that, well, let's just give them these workshops kind of idea. So I'm curious, as you come about that, if there's employers who say, absolutely, we see that as a need for our employees. That'll be interesting how that folds out.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands now, what's fascinating is that this is literally like you get it or you don't.
Right.
And what I imagine happening is that we will go in and launch a hell of a workshop.
Yeah.
And that will catalyze someone to be like,
yeah,
okay, I now know that I don't know.
Right.
And that's a big transition, right? That awakening, I'm sure you know it, like to move from I don't know that I don't know to I know that I don't know is huge, most important one.
Yep.
And if we can do that, we have an online platform, or we can help you with this resource, this resource, this resource.
Yeah.
One of those resources we would love to be you.
Cool. Love that.
We still have all kinds of youth stuff happening, but that model has changed. And I think adults, for a lot of reasons, are just better aligned for you and I to figure out, okay, how does this relationship and dynamic work?
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. Love it.
All right. Let me get some quick notes under my belt. You are episode 9.
Yay.
Pretty cool. That was a pretty prolific Star Wars episode too.
Was it? All I know is 19 and 9 are my favorite numbers. So naturally I'm 9.
What?
What?
That is awesome. Okay. So I'm kind of going to be like, I may bounce between taking notes, reading, asking, but a lot of this is just kind of some sharing. We'll add like an intro later. So I'll just kind of introduce you. How would you like me to introduce you? And Scott, financial coach, or something different?
Yeah, you can introduce me as a financial coach. Sure.
Okay. Is there something else that would be helpful for you?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, I think, I'm the owner of Amy Scott Financial Coaching, but I don't know if you necessarily need to say this,
I'm happy to.
Okay. Yeah, you can say that. Sure.
All right. Owner of?
Amy Scott Financial Coaching.
Cool. Mom of 2?
Yeah. 2 boys, 11 and 10.
Awesome. Anything else?
I think that's good. That sounds good.
Okay. All right. So we'll go through. I will try to find a natural taper.
Yeah. Sure.
I'll thank you, and we can have like the strange, awkward silence of like, it'll be the cut point, and then we can kind of wrap up from there.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Ready to rock?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Cool. All right, everybody. Welcome back to This is Financial Intelligence. I'm absolutely excited to be here with Amy Scott. We got connected maybe 3 years ago. It has been some
That seems like a long time. No.
Oh, I know. But I also feel like January was a long time.
Yes.
So the world is moving so fast and rapidly. Guys, Amy Scott is the owner of Amy Scott Financial Coaching. So a financial coach, which is something we're going to dive into today a lot, but also the mom of 2 boys, just back from vacation. So lively and energized. Amy, thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
We have so much to talk about. Like in a lot of ways, I'd like to maybe start with drawing a comparison of like coaching finance and maybe coaching a sport or coaching an individual on business, right? Because I think the word coach can feel like you're surrendering like autonomy or control rather than enlisting support, right? So when you think of a coach, what do you think of as, the relationship that you develop with someone you're working with. How do you see coaching in relationship to someone that needs help with their money?
Mm. So when I think about coach just in general, what comes to mind first for me, and that I use it as an analogy with my clients is, for example, the idea of working towards something that's important to you in your life, but that you haven't been able to reach some of the goals or where you want to be at in that area. So often people will think of it as like a personal trainer, right? So you go to the gym, someone, says to you, okay, well, where do you want to be physically with your physical health, and guides you through the process of getting there. And I think of a coach as somebody who sees you and listens to you, more than just sees you, but listens to you as that future self, as that possibility, and relates to you as that possibility, and gives you advice, encouragement, support, actions to take to get yourself there. So in the world of finances, that could be a lot of different things. People come to me, they want to set up for retirement, they want to buy a house, they want to have a kid, they want to even maybe get married, and they want to have a conversation of how do I get to that future self in the most empowered way possible. And my goal is to listen to them as that person and guide them through the process to get them there.
Amazing. So I love, one of the things, I used to be a personal trainer, and one of the things I loved about that journey for me,
yeah,
it wasn't just helping people. It was that I had to really uncover their primary driver. And I love that the things that you hit on most are, I see you and I'll listen to you. And one of the discoveries through that journey for me was that most people just wanted to be held accountable. I'm going to show up. I'm paying money. I'm definitely going to be there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's similar to the money conversation? Is it about stepping into the discomfort and getting someone to walk with you? Is that a big piece of financial coaching, just like personal training?
I think so. I think anytime you say, hey, I'm raising my hand, even if it's like marriage coaching, right? Or business coaching, or we've done some like parenting coaching, right? Like you're basically saying, I'm not where I want to be. And I think that's an incredibly vulnerable thing to say, which I think with personal training, right? I worked with a personal trainer like 8 or 9 years ago. And I remember how uncomfortable I felt basically saying, I don't feel like I'm able to get where I want to be on my own. And we're just such an independent, self-driven society. So to say that, it's a vulnerable thing to say. I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, Aaron.
Not going to answer. Yeah, look, I think a major theme in Money Club, we want to highlight the tactical, mechanical pieces that knowledge can help with, but also the vulnerable mindset shifts that need to take place in order for us to make some kind of growth real.
Absolutely.
So I think that's beautiful. The one thing I want to maybe ask you to extrapolate a little bit more on is, I don't feel able. So when I hear that, right, it sounds like as a coach, you may need to step in with, one, dismantling that belief system, and then two, guiding them to the tools and the mechanics that get them where they want to go. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first step, I love the word dismantle, right? So for us, I talk about it as a financial coach is like your money scripts.
Yep.
Right. So we can't have any conversation until we've talked a little bit about like, well, what did you learn about money? What do you say about money? So what are some of the expressions you've heard over time? How did your parents relate to money? I mean, we know that a lot of our habits in life are established before the age of 7. So with a lot of my clients, we got to go back a pretty far way to dismantle some of those potentially limiting beliefs for them around money. And a lot of them empowering beliefs, right? It's not so much whether they're empowering or limiting, that's a piece of it, but the other piece of it is just recognizing that they're there and they're automatic and that we have a choice, right? And that is a new habit to create thinking things differently. And I think that's a big piece that's different with a financial coach than maybe somebody who's just, it is the numbers piece. I am a numbers nerd for sure at the end of the day. But if you keep just saying, well, if you do this, if you just looked at the numbers this way, you're not going to get the results with the person that you're committed to achieving. You've got to break down where that past plays in.
I love that. We got to come up with like a numbers nerd t-shirt.
Yes.
That's got to happen.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening, help us make a numbers nerd t-shirt.
Yeah. I love that.
I will rock that. I feel that one of the major pieces of this that shifted for me that might be a really good conversation piece. I had a mentor maybe 6 years ago. He sat me down and he said, what you measure grows. And at the point I was kind of gypsy-ish with my money.
Yeah.
And was very, very tactful with it. And I was saving and I was responsible, but I wasn't attentive to the degree where I was actually measuring. And when I started to deploy a bit more measurement in all areas of my life, friends around me will tell you, like, I've got a really robust system for like living.
Yeah.
It radically changed everything. So what do you think about that axiom? What you measure grows. Do you feel like it's a part of coaching? Do you feel like it's a part of someone naturally evolving as a financial steward?
Yeah, I would absolutely, I would say it in that way. And I say it a little bit different with my clients as far as what you focus on expands.
Love it.
And the reason I say it just a little bit differently is because I think the measures piece is important, but to me, it's also like focus. If we're not necessarily measuring, but we're focusing on, we're having a conversation around money. We're not sticking our heads in the sand and hoping to get by. We're giving attention to it. The opportunities in that area will expand. And to me, money, I often say this, is not necessarily about having more money. So of course that's important to me as I'm working with people, that they have more money to do the things they want to do. But what I'm actually more interested in is people having more options. And more money creates more options. So I think focusing on it and acknowledging that, finances, personal finances, business finances, money threads its way throughout our life. We cannot ignore it. It allows us to have more of what we want. I
understand that quite well. Yeah. Let's do two things, because options is a really powerful word for me personally, and hopefully for those listening. I would say that one of the principles I try to live by is, more power is more options. And, power has its own kind of like emotional trigger for a lot of people. And it doesn't always mean like, I can lift more things, or I can, like change a city. Just, I can use my energy in different ways because I've got options. So let's first paint the picture of possibility. What options can money present for somebody that, is maybe feeling trapped, or maybe feeling like they don't know why they would start down this journey, right? Let's paint the beautiful part of it. What does more options present to somebody?
Well, I think painting the beautiful part starts with, of course, like a vision board, right? Yes. It's different for everyone. So when I first talk with folks, I'm really, they're telling me, well, I'm having this issue or that issue. And I'm saying, but what do you really want? What do you really want? It has to start with an expansive conversation of like, what it is that you want for yourself in your life. Like when you, in the wee hours of the night, right? Or the wee hours in the morning, when you allow yourself to contemplate what you want your life looking like for you, that's to me where the options start from. So if you're somebody who has that seedling of starting your own business someday, or moving to a different community, living near family, starting a family, like whatever that is for you, I mean, that's the options piece for me, is that like, it isn't enough just to say, oh, look, I balanced my budget at the end of the month. You've got to always know, you got to be clear how X is connected to Y, right? So it's like why the options it presents for you to focus on your money down the road, but you got to know what those options are for you. So I feel like I'm saying the word options a lot, but I think at the beginning, it's really about dreaming. It's really about starting and saying, this is what I want my life to look like. How does focusing on my money get me to where I want to be down the road?
Yeah. Yeah. And strangely, it seems obvious,
Mm-hmm.
but it's quite difficult to pin this down.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, both with business and my personal goals. Like I've got a board upstairs that is very much, here's where I'm going. And
Yeah.
what's fascinating is I try to keep a very short threshold of that,
Mm-hmm.
rather than thinking like, here's 50 years from now, like it just is too far-fetched and the world's changing too fast for that. But even in that conversation, to say something like, to say it with clarity and say, I want this car, or I want this kind of house, or I want my kids to go to this school, or I'd like this kind of figure, um, requires us to really say no to a lot.
Yeah.
And I think our general noise, both in our social media presences and the way our attention is constantly pulled in different directions, makes it really hard to say like what we want authentically, right? Are you spending time kind of helping people navigate through like their authentic desires?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a call with clients yesterday, and there's so many things that present themselves as you start to have options, as you start to manage your money, as you start to, and an opportunity arose for them to potentially buy a different house. And I only mention this because the job as a coach is not to say, yes, you should or shouldn't buy that new house that you're talking about. The job is to say, this is what you said was important to me.
Yep.
Important to you, right? This is what you said was important to you. Does that serve that larger goal for you? And to remind people of what it is that they've created for themselves over time. But I want to say another thing, Erin, is that typically people don't work with a financial coach when they say, well, I'd really like to get more enlightened about this and create more opportunities for myself for the future. Of course, that may be something that they want. My experience is that typically they come to me or to a financial coach or some, when they have a crossroads, right? When there's a pain point that's strong enough that they're saying, I am no longer willing to tolerate feeling this way, experiencing this in my relationships, or not having X. I'm no longer willing to tolerate, saying I want X and not being able to get that year after year after year, for example. So I think that piece is important to get to. What is it you're not willing to tolerate anymore? Or, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I realize I'm not going to get there on my own.
Yep. So what usually triggers a crossroads? What kind of things have you seen that force, that catalyze, I'm ready to make a shift?
Yeah. Big stuff. Typically it's something pretty big. Sometimes it'll be people coming to me saying, I am going to get divorced if I'm not able. I do work with a lot of couples. So I work with couples who are, we're just not on the same page. They don't say it necessarily in this way, but the way I see it is they don't see money the same way. They came from very different scripts and background. They think they can't get on the same page about what their goals are. Right. And they've hit this crossroads of like, oh my gosh, I just know we cannot tolerate this anymore. And sometimes it's a last ditch effort for them to come and work with me around that. Other things that come up for people, I think it's often something that they have said that they've wanted, whether it is moving of a job, moving closer to family, whether it's just living off of less so they can have more of what they want in their life. And they're just sick and tired of saying, we want to be able to experience more activities in our life or travel in our life, and we're not able to do that. And they're willing to have somebody else shine a light on their spending and their saving and their habits, and have them, have them see something newly. So it could be different ends of the spectrum. Some people just think like this is a good thing to do, and my friend said I should have someone else look at my money. Other people, a lot of times it's going to be because it's impacting their relationships and the things that they say that they want.
So then let's come back to the word options, right? What does figuring that out provide as an option to the relationship? What does it power that wasn't there before?
Well, I think it powers, if it is a relationship, right? Teamwork, partnership, and a feeling of actually enjoying life. You know, at the end of the day, it's not about the dollars and cents. It's about your experience of your life. So, you know, my big thing with people, Erin, I'm sure I've said this to you before, is that shining a light for folks, right? So it's giving folks clarity around what's happening with their money so that they can have peace of mind in making financial decisions. And that's really the big piece for me, is the peace of mind.
Yep.
People typically come to me at a crossroads of, I'm experiencing dramatic stress in this area. There are studies out there that say like 64% of people fear looking at their finances deeply more than they fear death. So it's just fascinating that I'm like, I want to just look at it all day long. So when I saw that about myself, I was like, ooh, how can I truly support people in this process for themselves, since this is something that I enjoy doing. But for me, it's peace of mind overall. Options provides for peace of mind and choice.
Spoken beautiful. So if you're listening, you know, what just happened is we drew a line between, you know, how understanding a need to learn about money creates options, usually catalyzed by some need for shift and change, and that can generate a reduction of stress and therefore peace of mind. And what to me is fascinating about that is that the numbers now are serving a purpose greater than the facilitation of the money. Mm-hmm. They're actually improving our state of being, right? Our way of life, which to me is sort of the objective of it all, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily to like own more shit, but to instead have a better sense of clarity and stability and options, right? Another word for options for those of you in the club that are looking at, you know, what's next is like growth. I want to grow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That mic drop moment. Heck yeah.
Well, when you think about that growth, right? This is the piece I'm saying around the options is whatever is important to different people will show itself when you really get into the process of delving into your money. Because you know that quote around like, don't tell me what you value, show me your bank account and show me your calendar and I'll tell you what you value.
Yep. Right?
But so many of us are just spending because we think that's what there is to do. I myself did that for years on end, right? Where I'm unconscious about the decisions I'm making.
Yep.
And how those are connected potentially to options in the future and growth and things like that. So it's making that connections for people around the choices you're making today and how those impact bigger picture.
I don't even know where to go from there. Because I feel like that's so emotionally powerful. And what we're really combining is the emotions of what money can provide with the tactics of how you leverage money to create emotion and emotion to create leverage, which is a very powerful, it's like a weird perpetual machine, right? It powers itself in its own way. So when I think of peace of mind, specifically around money, the outcome of peace of mind allows me to then make better choices, right? So that's kind of the perpetual machine that I imagine, right? When I'm less stressed, I'm able to make choices that align better, out of possibility rather than challenge and contest. Once you are working with individuals and seeing some of these shifts,
Mm.
What are some of the like off-grid byproducts that you start to experience with them and through them and for them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the biggest piece really, and I would imagine you see this yourself and folks that you work with, but is, or even as a personal trainer in the past, is that people, when they start to make changes in this area, that when they come to me, they really have felt like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I've tried X, Y, and Z, or A through Z, for example. So when people are able to start to see this area differently and start to transform this area, the byproduct, Aaron, is that ripples out to all different areas.
Totally.
So all of a sudden, I have clients who have, diabetes, for example, and for the first time in their life, they're hiring a personal trainer and going to the gym. It's taking more money out of their budget, right? But they're so committed that their budget reflects what their values are and what's important to them. And all of a sudden, this sounds like a big deal. This sounds maybe bigger than it should be. I'm not sure, but all of a sudden they have an incentive to live their life longer. So they start making choices in alignment with having a longer, healthier life. So that's just one example. Other things is byproducts as far as folks saying, you know what, like, I don't necessarily need to live in this house anymore, because that doesn't necessarily represent what I say is important to me and what my values are. Or maybe I've had people take on like roommates, for example, to have extra cash come in for a season. Yep. So that they can accomplish some of what their bigger goals are, for example. So people are, in a simplified way, taking action in those areas that were always important to them, but that they had blocks around. And they're extrapolating from the financial coaching and mapping that on to those areas of life. So quite frankly, I see stronger, healthier, happier relationships, marriages, kids, all the things.
All of the things.
All the things.
Money Club, I really hope you're listening to this. There's so much more here than meets the eyes. Amy, I've done a little bit of, I wouldn't say a little bit, I've done a lot of like business coaching and alignment coaching. And sometimes that is like almost financial therapy, right?
Yeah.
And in that work, the objective is, to rewrite some of these things that you live by, the codes, the beliefs, all of those pieces.
Yeah.
But giving someone permission to align all of their spending and their time together is really important. And I just want to put this out in Money Club. If you have not done this exercise, print out your Google Calendar for 2 months. 2 months. So don't go to the screen that shows you your week, print it out. Print out 8 weeks. Then print out 8 weeks of your bank statement, whatever card you use, whatever cards you use. And just with no judgment, just review what's there. It is mind-blowing because it will tell you the story of your current pattern. And I had to do this, and it was grueling. It was not fun.
Yeah.
But it did help me wake up to like, oh my God, the way I'm spending my money and my time versus the way I think I'm spending my money and time, vastly different. So speaking of, Money Club, you got to do that.
I love that. You guys have the most inventive exercises. I'm like, oh, I want to go do that. That's awesome.
That one has gotten a really interesting set of feedback, right? Some individuals are like, I'm miserable even looking at this, and I'm like, great, that's the catalyst for like this kind of shift. But let's learn a little bit more about you. Like, what are calendar and expenses? What are some things that you value that you like to invest in, that you find as important elements of your pattern?
Yeah. So several years ago, I started getting like really geeked out on Google Calendar. So I think I have like, several, I'm not gonna say how many, but several different calendars, right? Whereas before I'd be like, if I exercise, I exercise. Now, like there's a calendar for it. Like there's a color for it. It shows up differently. Spending time with my kids. There's a calendar for it. There's, walking my duck. There's a calendar for it. So, what are the things that I find are important? If I, let's just say if I did that exercise, what would stand out? I would hope. I need to go now do it and see if it's in alignment, but it's certainly spending time with my family. And I think I've said to you before, there's like a really big shift for me because my husband teaches at the school where our kids go. He used to leave at 7:30 in the morning and come home at 6 at night. And, the hours in between were my hours to run my business and take care of myself. And the last 6 months, everybody's here.
Yep.
Everybody's here on Zoom calls all the time. So life has looked differently in that way. And I share that just because it's a shift in being more intentional. Used to be when they come home, I'm with them. But now everybody's home all the time. So if anyone in the Money Club has children, you understand the feeling, the pull, right? As far as like that guilt that can provide for you of like, well, everyone's here all the time. I said I'd spend time with them when they're home, but now everybody's here. So that piece I've tried to be very intentional about in the last few months of what time is for work and what time's for my husband, what time's for the kids. That's really important. As far as what we spend money on, several years ago, we started, and I do this with my clients now, determining what's important to us and saving for that monthly. So this vacation that we just came back with, spending time with family at Rehoboth, really was about Erin intentionally saving X amount of money every month so that it didn't hit us like, well, we really need to get out. We really need to do something, so that we had that money saved over time. If you looked at I save money in Capital One accounts, so you could see, looking at all of those, the things that are most important to us as far as putting money towards those monthly. But really for us, it's time with family and it's time away, if we're able to get that. And I know that that's modified in today's times.
It is. And I also love that in some way, shape, or form, there's a placement of your money towards the future that gives you something to look forward to in a way that doesn't feel like you're going backwards.
Yeah.
Which many may feel like, I'm working in this direction, but if I've got no plan, I just kind of am at the whim of what's happening around me, and the consequence of my choice may or may not be good. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to what you measure grows. To sort of loop that fully around. Money Club, if you've got kids, I imagine our COO has a daughter at home. And it's definitely changed, working relationships and dynamics and household conversations and how many pieces of technology you need.
Right.
Has it also, so this is sort of off of the money trail, but I think an important piece of this, has it also shifted some of the priorities in the way your work and time with kids and family have been deployed, I suppose is the word. Mm-hmm. Has it shifted that?
I think it has to shift that. Yeah. And I think it just comes back to the intentionality, right? I mean, but yeah, sure it has, because my kids need me in a different way than, they're 10 and 11 years old. So they are kind of off doing their own thing at school. And so they obviously need me in a different way right now. And that's shifted that priority. I think the hardest piece has been more being intentional about my relationship with my husband and making sure that we have that time with each other and that we're connecting in, and not just having our money dates, but having, our relationship dates and things like that. I'm very fortunate, Erin, in that I've worked with clients on Zoom for the last several years. I was using Zoom before it was cool, I like to say. So I am able to still continue to see and to serve my clients. And that's my biggest priority. So, and my kids get that. My kids have been around this long enough. They know how to go onto our budget and see what's happening and plan for things and move things around and have conversations. I remember my 4-year-old back in the day saying to me, I want to do soccer and it starts in September. How much do we need to save for that? It was like my proudest mom moment that he said that. So we're continuing to have those kind of conversations, but COVID has made that obviously very different for us right now. But I think at the end of the day, it's just about the intentionality.
So
Because I
that's
probably waste a lot of time. I'm
super.
saying I could waste a lot of time. So now I have to be more intentional with the time I have.
Yes, yes, and I think this is a great kind of way to close our conversation.
Yeah.
So mine, and I think shared by many, especially those that have gone through the trenches and the ups and downs, can recognize that the more valuable resource is time. Right? That's the one thing you'll never get back. You'll never get it back. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I've also witnessed so many, and I've been a part of this culture of just like, go get more money, go get more money, go get more money. And you miss the magic of what's around you. So intentionality seems to be a really strong word to help individuals get a little bit more sympathetic to this ideology.
Yeah.
What does intentionality look like in money related to happiness and related to success by whoever's listening, by your definition? But Amy, to you, like, how does intentionality factor into that?
Those are big questions, Aaron. I mean, I think it comes back to that what you focus on expands, right? So what are you going to be intentional about? I mean, there are certain things that I have enjoyed doing in my life that I'm not necessarily doing during this time of COVID. And it's not that I don't want to do them. It's just that what's going to cause the biggest bang for the buck for me and for my family during this time. So intentionality to me is the willingness, if you're in Money Club, to do whatever exercises that are presented to you such that you can get clarity and be able to cause the shift that you want to cause. At the end of the day, I mean, intentionality and clarity, the intention to be clear is where it all starts for me. So like if you're a personal trainer and someone comes into you and they're a new client, the first thing they're going to do, I would assume, is come into the gym and get weighed and get measured, get the what's so of right now. So I think the first step around intentionality is the willingness to get that clarity of the what's so with your money, so that you can have that aha of this is what's happening right now. Here's the goal I've set for myself. And then where is, what are the actions I'm going to take to get myself there? But you can't, so often people say to me, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but it's like, do you know where you are right now? Right. So it's the willingness to be intentional to get that baseline clarity that I think financial coaches, Money Club, others offer as a first real step so that the changes you do make stick over time.
Yep. And
don't just fade away as the newest thing you did because that was the thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a commitment over time.
Love that. Love that. In life, I feel the biggest leaps always come from those decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with goals.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. It has to be a commitment. Otherwise, you'll snap. The way that I like to refer to it is like the snapback.
Yeah. And
you just rebound right back to where you were. And I went to like a Tony Robbins event, right? Tony Robbins event. I mean, it's like a drug. Like you're so amped for like 7 days.
Yeah.
But the majority of people that I met at Tony Robbins were like, this is my 9th event. This is my 12th event. Somebody there was like, I go to Tony Robbins 4 times a year. And it seemed like, and this was true then, I think it's even more true now, that if that individual had committed to making the shift in that learning, that lesson, that opportunity, and made it and committed to, I'm going to make this shift permanent, despite how uncomfortable, it wouldn't need to go 30 times. Right? If I'm a teacher and I got to explain somebody the same lesson 30 times, I got questions, right? Got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
All right. This is absolutely wonderful. Amy, this is beautiful. Like, so we went from, coaching to, where someone might build towards independence through vulnerability. We talked about money scripts. We looked at like when someone might catalyze themselves into making a commitment. We talked about peace of mind and stress. We talked about the calendar and statement exercise. We talked about intentionality, and I think there's going to be a lot that someone listening can either replay and get it back or got from a single listen. So before we go, where can someone find you? How can they reach you? Because there's a lot of gems here, and I'm sure some people in Money Club might need your help.
Yeah, I think the best place to reach me, honestly, Aaron, is just on my website, which is Amy Scott Coaching. Kind of tells a little bit more about my story and why I became a financial coach and the way that I serve my clients. That's the best way to reach me right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Money Club, you got to check this woman out. It's been so like sometimes you sit down with somebody. We had coffee at a cafe called Cunningham's, and sometimes you just know that you intersect with people and they're going to be a part of your journey, and you don't always know how or why or when, and it could just be from a distance, it could be close. You just kind of never know. But Amy, I then and now still feel just so incredibly lucky and grateful that our paths continue to collide.
Thank you. The feeling is very mutual, Aaron. I so appreciate you and everything you're up to. And to me, it's elevating the conversation across the United States, but specifically here in Baltimore, which is really important to me. So thank you.
Well, Money Club, check out Amy and her work. Highly recommend. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Dope.
You're so funny, Aaron.
This was a ton of fun. Wow.
I hope that's helpful. I never know, of course you never know what people will get out of things. I listen to podcasts and my husband listens to it and I'm like, oh my gosh, did you hear this? And he's like, no, but I heard this and I didn't even hear that. So
yep.
Yeah.
There's some magic in there for sure. And we got a new t-shirt to make. So,
so one of my clients made this for me, like a little a handband thing that said, what would Amy do? And I was like, oh, that looks a little bit like those Jesus things, like WWJD. But it was interesting to me that I worked with a personal trainer 8 years ago, and I still think about some of the things that she said to me.
Wow.
As far as my own health and fitness and habits. I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. Have you read that?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, super great book. Actually, someone in our couples group recommended it, and we were like, and it's phenomenal. And I got, oh wow, this is all my work. This is everything, like all packaged up. It's just about habits, becoming conscious about what your habits are, dismantling, disempowering. I mean, all the things, right? So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna write that. I keep a book list.
I know you do.
Atomic Habits. There's a lot of books on this list.
I'm sure. There's a bunch of habits ones out there right now. This was just the one recommended to us.
I love that. I think, we're trying to straddle the build technical, show how, and then habits, why, behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I got involved. You familiar with the Motley Fool?
Yeah.
So they're building a foundation, and they put together a task force to help guide what it's doing and how it's doing it. And they invited me to be a part of that formation team. And it's been really interesting. They put together 5,000 pages of research, more research. I'm not a research person anyway.
Right.
But more than our team could ever put together without saying no to everything else. Mm. And it was really interesting to look at some of the stats. So one was if you are financially illiterate, fintech damages your money because you don't really know what you're doing. Yeah. And almost everybody's illiterate. Yeah. I think illiterate and literate are terrible goals. I think we talked about that, but yeah. Still, it was just there's so many pieces of this, and I think habits are huge. And one of the bigger pieces, I'd love to just get your thoughts on this really quickly before we bounce. I feel like the battle for financial education, the battle for financial intelligence, which is our kind of buzzword, is a direct foil to the sophistication of marketing in America. Marketing like is our business in America.
Yeah.
But I said that, and someone was like, well, that's not really the problem. And my position was like, that is 100% the problem. If people can't keep their money because marketing is so good, so incredibly good, and it's everywhere, then what we're really trying to do is combat the insatiability of American marketing.
Right.
But I love to know your thoughts, because you're working with individuals that have atomic habits.
Just give up. It's a battle you cannot win. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, that's so hard. I don't have any big thoughts on that. Because I feel like, Erin, this is where it's tricky for me, right? Like, I love the one-on-one, or often 2-on-1 is what I'm doing with a lot of clients. It's probably 50-50 split. I love that. And I realize my ability to really get in with people is limited by the number of appointments I'm willing to have.
Yep.
And I think that's where, honestly, like, the employee financial wellness really stood out to me, because I thought, oh, cool, I could get in front of more people quicker, but even that is limited. So then, do I train other people in how I coach people? And this is where, when you ask me about intentionality and priorities and things, it's just like not personally where I'm at right now. But I do realize, and this is tied into your question, in order to dismantle that machine, there has to be regular, in-person, not a bot telling you, like, accountability. It has to be that client coming to the and being like, so we saw this house. It's up on Falls Road. It's 9 acres. It meets all the things we want. I know we said we weren't going to do that for 2 years, but what do you think? It has to be that real live conversation. And so then I think, so the people who work with me are great, but the people who don't have that are screwed. And
Totally.
So I don't have a bigger answer to that question. And I don't even want to think about it because it's too big.
I know.
That's my honest answer.
That's a great answer.
But regular accountability, even if it's 15 minutes, that piece I think makes a difference.
Yeah. My coaching, I've consistently learned and grown, and like my rate's grown, and who I work with has grown, and the amount that I can deliver has grown.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has been a part of your march as well, is as you do more work, you find more tactics and ways to get to the point faster.
Yes, absolutely.
And notice, like, I notice that I'm noticing patterns, and I don't even notice that I know them.
Yeah.
Right. You just kind of fall into like hyper awareness.
Yeah.
But it also seems that the biggest piece of coaching for the client is awareness, like to develop awareness. And that's hard. It's really hard. Or let me restate that. It takes time and commitment, to your point earlier. But I also feel like this is meaning, like, I mean, you could change someone's whole shit, change their whole world.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, I have no doubt about that. So I'll always feel good about all the things. I've just thought, how will this continue to be enough? Because I actually love the initial, like, if I could work with everyone and just have that initial 2-hour deep dive session and serve 500 people, as opposed to, 12 weekly clients, I'd probably be more, not even just because of the numbers, because I love that initial awareness.
Totally.
That is my jam 24/7. But I find that people, they will pay more for that longer. So it's like, I kind of see two different streams for me of like, well, I keep with these people because they're willing to pay me considerable amounts of money because they value it over time. but I love having these initial 1 hour, anyway. So I see it in those two different ways. Like some people, that's all they're willing to invest is that. So that better be the best I can give to them to raise that awareness so that
Right.
they can then take the next step for themselves. They don't need all the hand holding.
Yeah. 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 And then you've got, I think in that strange diaspora, like, the individuals that are driven and ambitious
Yeah.
and will take your small seed and like in a week it's a full tree.
Exactly.
And then you got others that are like, I took the seed and like it's going to take a year to grow.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as a coach, especially, what is in theory like high performance, we're pushed to like work with the best. But there's also something meaningful about true development over a long period of time and impact in that way. And I straddle between both worlds and have there's heroes and villains on both sides of that battle too.
Yeah. Yeah. Will always be a challenge.
That's the fun part.
It is the fun part. I agree. How best to serve people, and how best to have the biggest impact over time. I had these clients, I was a videographer. We must have met almost a year ago. And that's all they needed was that initial session. He and his fiance getting down and dirty, set up their whole budget for them, sent them off on their own, checked in a couple of times. They were like, we're doing okay. We had a meeting before I went on vacation, and I had no idea what they were doing because a lot of people stay in touch with me, but they'd gotten an inheritance. So they wanted to have a check-in meeting to be like, okay. And I really didn't know what we were coming into. They had taken to the T what I had set up for them. I'd never seen people follow this. So, they were just like, well, that's what you said to do. And I started thinking a little bit because they were like 30, and I don't typically work with people that on that younger side. And I was like, oh, this is why I keep seeing in Erin's marketing, like 35 and under, like maybe they're more malleable. Maybe they're more open. Maybe when coach says, my dad used to say, when I say jump, you say how high.
Yep.
And it felt like that type of experience. And they were like, well, we got this money, so now tell us what to do. And I was not used to that because I'm typically more in the 45 to 60-year-old range of folks who are like, well, I'll tell you how to do it, but you tell me, and then I'll do it the way I want to do it.
Right.
And that's why they know about themselves that they need weekly meetings because they know their own mind. They know themselves well enough to know they'll run off. But anyway, it was a phenomenal experience for me because I was like, damn, what I tell you, you're actually going to do, and how exciting that was.
That's the best compliment as a coach, that kind of trust.
Yeah. Right. That's the instrumental piece. Yep.
Beautiful.
Other people just takes longer to build that trust.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Amy, this was great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'll send you, I'll see if our team can send you a copy of this if you'd like it when we're done.
Okay.
You
Sure.
can share on stuff.
Okay.
Generally, we've kept it all internal, so we're not putting on like,
yeah.
There's a whole different game of like Apple and Spotify, like it just becomes bananas. So we're going to have a nice repository, and when we're there, we're just going to have like 100 episodes to be like, here we go. Yep. But for right now, to stay internal, we'll push on our social networks and all that. But I would love for you to have a copy of it to do whatever you need, even just listen in.
Yep.
And then I will continue to kind of march towards us aligning. So maybe just give some thought to like, how would that normally work? What kind of structure does it normally entail? What kind of boundaries are going to be healthy for both of us? And in what ways can we start to align those together?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I don't know if you've ever looked, I'm sure you've seen my website, but I have a page now that's for financial wellness, about like workplace financial wellness.
Cool.
And I put together, maybe just interesting for you to see if it like a opt-in on there that's 9 signs your employees are struggling with money. And I did quite a bit of research around that for some of the latest data that's out there. And some of those pain points might be interesting for you as you engage in conversations with employers about the importance of financial wellness programs. So I've gotten some good feedback on that. So
Cool.
Feel free to use that if that's helpful to you. Obviously not my own research. I didn't do that from leading my own programs. I just pulled that from other people's programs.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that offer. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, sure.
I think there will also be a point in the future where, like, as we want to bring in, if we're doing 4 workshops in a year, we've got plenty of runway to do that, but it'd be neat to bring you in the fold of one of those. And one of the questions we got asked by a client was like, okay, like, we're cool. I get 4, like, what happens if we want to keep going? We were like, well, then we just find more stuff that you guys want to talk about. And,
Right.
we can bring somebody in from Keller Williams to talk about homes, or we can bring in all these things to the fold. So there may be some ways that we overlap those together.
Mm-hmm.
So lots here.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, it's great to spend time with you, Aaron, and I look forward to connecting again.
We will do so very soon.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
See you, Amy.
Bye.